We're still going to do the laws of Shabbat. Hopefully next week we'll do some laws of Pesach, Passover. Today we're going to give one of the most fundamental classes we ever gave in the laws of Shabbat, because it's general rules that apply to all of the 39 melachot. And it's a very fundamental shiur that actually has a lot of very interesting practical examples. I just want to say something here, that I had the great zechut 3 years, almost full time. I was learning the laws of Shabbat in Kollel some 20 some years ago. Now I realized I really don't know anything yet. I just hit the tip of the iceberg. And today we're going to talk about 3 ideas. The idea of melechet machshevet, the idea of mitasek. Also, we're going to go a little bit into benefiting. If you desecrated Shabbat, are you allowed to benefit? And if we have time, we'll go to davar sheino mitkaven. But if not, we're going to keep it a little bit on the more short and sweet side. Everything we're saying is based on the Yalkut Yosef, Klalim Hilchot Shabbat, Volume 4 of Yalkut Yosef, book number 5 in Hilchot Shabbat. Page Resh Chav Bet. Now, one of the most fundamental ideas, and we did talk about this a little bit when we were talking about the LED lights, is that since desecrating Shabbat is a cardinal sin, which means it's punishable by the death penalty, right? It's not a joke. Shabbat, if you don't keep it, a lot of people don't know this, because a lot of people don't learn the Gemara in Zavachim, but somebody that doesn't keep Shabbat, they won't even, is worse than a goy in a certain way. It's so scary when I was learning this with my father Zatzal, that they accept the korban of a goy, the Kohanim. But if they know that you haven't done teshuvah and you continue to be mechalel Shabbat, you're ineligible to offer any offerings in the Holy Temple.
Wow.
To rectify your sin. And it's like you're an idol worshiper and many other things. So, but the good news is that it's not so easy for a person, the barometer to be desecrate Shabbat on a Torah level is much higher, right? To be considered a Mechalel Shabbos, Shabbat midoraita, than a Derabanan. Why? Because there's this grand concept of Meleches Machsheves. The Torah only forbids on Shabbat hard labor, something productive labor that is premeditated. And why is that? A lot of the stuff that we're not allowed to do on Shabbat, and thank God for the rabbinical laws, or else we'd lose the whole spirit of the law, and we'd all be like,
It's everything.
we'd lose the whole peace of mind in this crazy world of technology and divorce. And my daughter just said one of her 21-year-old friends getting divorced, super from girl. Like, we're living in a chaotic world. Another one of my friends said, like, his from kid became a punk and is wearing like a rapper and like doing crazy recreational drugs. So definitely, let's say the truth of what Chazal say. We don't keep Shabbat. Shabbat keeps us safe, especially when we keep it in its classical form, in its real form of learning Torah the whole time and spending good family time, spending time with our own neshama and doing cheshbon hanefesh and learning Musar. But on a Torah barometer and level, only melechet machshevet is prohibited. This is because, where do we learn? We've been almost a year doing the 39 melachot of Shabbat. We did tying, last week we did tent, we did building, right? We learned all the 39 melachot from the Mishkan. And just like in the Mishkan, the Holy Tabernacle, they had a premeditated plan. Like my dad was a real estate developer, general contractor, right? You just don't build a building, it's going to collapse, right? You need to have a blueprint, you have to have measurements, you have to have, especially in today's world, you have to have code, you have to have inspector, right? Same thing when they built Moses' tabernacle in the Sinai desert. You have to have a premeditated plan how to carry out the construction. Same for nowadays, which means you've only desecrated Shabbat on a Torah level if the final product of the labor of your action is a direct outcome what you originally planned. So what's the classical case the Gemara says in Shabbat? If you plan to throw something like 8 amot, which is right. You're not one of the. Unfortunately, if you don't live in a real community that has an Eruv, right? USC doesn't have Eruv.
They have an Eruv on one block.
Yeah, on one block. Well,
Yeah.
it's out of the LA Eruv.
Yeah.
So, or like, I think UCLA is in our Eruv. It's on the right side of the 405. So
it is even all the way up to.
Yeah.
Where is that area? That's up.
I don't know if it's all the way up, but we have to ask. But it's good for the college students that and we thank everybody should subscribe. We thank all of you that are watching the shiurim globally for all these years. Please share these shiurim, because one of the most fabulous ways to bring Mashiach and protect the Jewish nation is if each Jew keeps the laws on Shabbat, and they're very sophisticated. You need to be a sophisticated, smart person to know all the laws of Shabbat. The great Gedolim say a person should always be learning the laws of Shabbat. Anyways, the bottom line over here is that if the final product, any of the 39 melachot, is not what you originally planned it to be, right? Something else ended up happening. You did not desecrate Shabbat on a Torah level. So therefore, if one does labor on Shabbat in an abnormal way, right, that you would never do it such a way. Like, let's say I'm a lefty. Now I'm a little bit ambidextrous because my right hand is stronger, but 99% of the population, they're righties, and if they write with their left hand, they can't even write anything legible. Have you, on Shabbat, one of the 39 things that's forbidden to do is write and paint, kotev, and to erase. So have you desecrated Shabbat if you write with your left
hand, your other opposite hand?
Your opposite hand that you don't know how to write with? No. Or if you write in an unusual way, like between your elbow, like you put it. That hurt. Yeah. Or you write like crazy backhanded. Like if you that by default, you should know this is not a joke. By the way, I have a problem with my colleagues I study with in my kollel on a daily basis. I just joined learning the laws of Shabbat. My brain has just been wired in a way that I'm in the world of practicality. So you should know, like a lot of Israeli doctors, they don't like to, when they work, they have to be in the hospital, like Hadassah or Ein Kerem or Tel HaShomer, wherever in Tel Aviv. A lot of the frum doctors, they're not so comfortable, because not every prescription you write is life-threatening. So they will go bend over backwards to do stuff in an abnormal way based on their rabbi and their, custom and halakhic ruling. So they at least only desecrating Shabbat, transgressing. I don't even want to call it desecrating. They're transgressing Shabbat, not on a Torah level, but rather what? On a rabbinic level. By the way, this rule applies, like I said many times, to all of the 39 forbidden labors, malachot of Shabbat. So therefore, something only becomes forbidden on a godly Torah level only if it's melechet machshevet. But how about, okay, so I want to ask you a question. Let's say you love drawing. You're addicted to drawing. So are you allowed to do stuff in an unusual way? No. So even if something, you understand, is not a melechet machshevet, it's still the rabbin, because the rabbis, the Gemara in Bava Basra says, Chacham adif minavi. A wise man is greater than a prophet. Knowledge is power. And the rabbis saw that if they don't step their foot down, the whole spirit of the law is going to go down the drain, and eventually the whole law is going to go down the drain. As history has proven, any Jew that has not been faithful to the rabbinical law has been assimilated like the Karaites and no longer exists, is a pure, full-fledged, 100% Orthodox Goy, not an Orthodox Jew, right? So, at any case, the Rambam talks about this countless time in his book. Just because something is not a melechet machshevet it still will be what? Asur midirabanan. Exactly, this is a mirror of what the Mesilat Yesharim said, right? You have to always categorize everything. You have to be very systematic in life, right? So, even if it's not a Melechet Machshavit, it's going to be what? Only forbidden on rabbinical law. But since it's only forbidden rabbinical law, the rabbis have a heart and realize that sometimes, in extreme cases, they will allow you to do the forbidden act in an abnormal way if a certain person is very sick, right? Or he has a major loss, or he's in tremendous pain, right? Like, if you want to learn examples of that, go ahead and look up Shulchan Aruch, Siman Shin Chaf Chet, chapter 328, or for pregnant women, right? Or women that are just gave labor. So since something already is not on that high barometer of Melechet Machshavit, it's only the Rabbanan, so the rabbis will work with you and they say, listen, we're not going to decree and make people's lives crazy, because we're only here to save the spirit of the law. And in case XYZ, the guys are under extreme financial pressure, extreme sick pressure of his pain, his whole body, for example. Hashem should be zoichas. One time we should maybe give a class or two on women that are pregnant, or chole kol gufo, somebody has migraine headaches, and so on and so forth. One can be liberated. Now let's go to the second most important fundamental rule of Shabbat, and that is mitasek. Mitasek is a fascinating sugya which I'd never learned all these years in depth. I just had the great zechut to learn it last week, and that's why I share it with you. There's actually 3 levels of transgressing Shabbat. One time is somebody premeditatedly, like we said, because desecrating Shabbat is a cardinal sin. So just like premeditated murder, premeditatedly with his blueprint, he wanted to build a house on Shabbat. He went and followed the blueprint, put in the nails in the ground, cement, right? Or like lit the fire, right? So everyone according. So such a person has desecrated Shabbat intentionally. What is that called in Hebrew? Mezid. There's a second way called shogeg, that the guy's unintentional. It happens all the time, unfortunately, to spaced out people. That you forgot it was Shabbat and you turned on the bathroom light. Now, nowadays, Baruch Hashem, in Israel, in all my bathrooms, we cover, because we do kiruv, we invite sometimes on from guests, and they turn it on and off. You can put covers that cover the
switch.
The switch. But let's say somebody by mistake turned on and off the switch. So shogeg, either you forgot today's Shabbat or you didn't know this action was forbidden. Because ignorance is bliss, right? Not everybody has the great merit to listen to our shiur. And people a lot of times learn something maybe 30, 40, 20 years ago. They forgot the 39 malachot. Yeah. So later on, so any of those are shogeg, right? You wanted to do what you're doing, right? You knew what you were doing, but it was unintentional that you didn't want to desecrate Shabbat, because either you didn't know that this specific action you're committing is considered labor and desecration of Shabbat, or you forgot it was Shabbat today because it was the middle of the night, right, and you were in deja vu, you were in La La Land. But then there's a third category which is fascinating, and you know what that is? Mitasek. Mitasek has a very, very sharp definition, so please pay attention. Mitasek means if one had in mind to do what is permissible, but accidentally he did what is prohibited. And what's the golden example of this? Bezrat Hashem, a big gadol b'Yisrael of Yaakov Hillel comes to LA for Shabbat, right? So you have hundreds and thousands of people trying to go to the Oneg to hear him speak. So let's say, lo and behold, there's no sitting space, and you lean on the wall, and you didn't know this is not even your house. This is, you're starting to get back pain because you've been standing, and there's a fountain of wisdom coming out of the great Gadol Ador, Gayin Ador of Yaakov Hillel Shalita. Hashem should give him a lot of power.
Amen. Refuah.
Or Rav Yitzchak Yosef. All the Gedolim which are so precious, without them we're blind. And by mistake, you need some support because you've been standing for so long. You lean on your neighbor or community member's wall and you turn off the light because lo and behold, the light behind you, the wall behind you has a switch, and now everybody's mad at you because you brought an end. You brought an end to the shir. So that's a classical case of what? Mitasek. Why? Because what were you trying to do? Were you trying to do anything forbidden on Shabbat? No. You're just trying to lean on a wall. And you don't have eyes behind your head. At least I don't. And the guy's trying to lean. And lo and behold, or even a better case is, let's say you were walking and there was a toy car on the ground. Right? So you slip and you're about to hit the floor, but you grab onto the wall, but the wall had a switch on it, and you turn on the switch or turn off the switch. So that the Gemara says is a different category than unintentional shogeg. And you know what the practical difference between them two is? Between category B and C? The practical difference is that shogeg, if unintentionally you desecrated Shabbat, you do have to bring a sin offering for Hashem to forgive you, right? But when you do a mitasek, no kapara, no atonement is needed, right? This whole parsha, third book of the Torah, is about korbanot and offering, right? Now there's a fascinating machlokas Rabbi Kiva Eger, which is actually a practical halacha. Both Rav David Yosef in his encyclopedic work talks about it, and both Rav Yitzchak Yosef. And that is the $1 million question here is, okay, we said that mitasek, right? Category number 3, where you are absolutely not trying to do anything forbidden, right? Is there any stench of sin in there or not? So Rabbi Kiva Eger in his Teshuvot, and if you want to, for those sophisticated people that really want to go into this, it's Teshuvos Rabbi Kiva Eger Siman Chet. He brings a very proof, and Rabbi Kiva Eger is one of the greatest of all Acharonim, so we don't really try to, he's like, after the Gra, I don't think we have a greater Ashkenazi Achron than Rabbi Kiva Eger. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he's somebody that his Torah is learned almost every day, like Rashi's. He was a giant in his generation. And Rabbi Kiva Eger brings a proof from somebody that's impure, Tameh, that walks into Beit HaMikdash. This is above the scope of this year, but he brings a conclusive proof that even though you were mitasek, and again, mitasek means you were trying to do something permissible, and by accident, something forbidden happened. A malacha happened. It still does have a stench and an aspect of sin, right?
You still have to bring a korban for it.
No, you don't need to bring. No, Shanija, no, Shanija. Again, this is a very sophisticated. This is a little bit higher level class than we ever give, but it's more global because it applies to the whole laws of Shabbat. That's why I wanted to give it. Again, let's chazer. Shogeg is an unintentional act, but basically Rav Aaron Kotler in his shirim explains Hashem is mad at you because if you would have been more spaced in, you would have never done this. Why are you Amaretz and never went to a Hilchot Shabbat shiur? Why were you spaced out in the middle of the night and turned on to life? You should have remembered. You should have been so engrossed and engulfed in the Kedusha, in the holiness of Shabbos, right? Shabbat, that you should have never have transgressed it. So therefore, shame on you. You need to bring a korban. You need to go to the Holy Temple. Mitasek is a whole different galaxy, Shani. Mitasek is, you never even wanted to go near anything forbidden. You're trying to lean on a wall, and by mistake, or you're just walking merrily down your hallway of your house, But those little terrorist toddlers put all their Legos and things, and you slipped and were about to fall, and you grab onto the wall, and the wall happens to have like a
switch.
a switch. Rabbi Kiva Eger says a chidush. Chacham Rabbi Kiva Eger says that you're not scot-free, basically. You're not totally in the light area. You're in the red area a little bit. And there's a practical nafkamina. You know why? Because we know Chachamim were very mad at people that desecrated Shabbat and did a sinful act. So if you hold like Rabbi Kiva Eger, that what you did has a little bit red and darkness in it, even though you were totally unintentional and you were totally you didn't even want to do anything forbidden, right? You wanted to lean on a wall, but still, perfect case. Look at this beautiful library we have, right? So let's say before Shabbat, I put all my Sfarim in my dining room, which is there, and all the lights are off here, right? No lights are on. The question is, now that if by accident leaning on the wall, am I allowed to benefit from the light? Because we know, if b'shogeg, you turned on a light on Shabbat, you're not allowed to benefit from it. Or let's say by accident you cook food on Shabbat, are you allowed to eat it? No. If by accident there was a dark room and you turn on the light in it, b'shogeg, right? That's category B. That if at the time of the temple you need to bring a korban, are you allowed to benefit from the outcome of your action?
Nope.
No. So the question is one allowed to benefit from the outcome of his mitasek labor? Which means there was a room, it was totally pitch dark. And it happens to be your library that has wonderful Torah books, because chas v'shalom, we do not read novels and garbage on Shabbat. Shabbat is for Torah. And you forgot to turn on the light in that room, right? But now, lo and behold, either you're good luck or bad luck, right? You were mitasek, you leaned on the wall. Now you're allowed to sit in your glorious, beautiful library and engage angelically in the study of Torah in that room, or no? So it depends. If you hold like Rabbi Akiva, absolutely not. Because what you did had some red, dark tone to it. In the eyes of Hashem, you're not told. The eyes of Hashem and the rabbis, even though you are a mitasek and you don't need to bring a sin offering, you're still not scot-free. So you can benefit. But actually, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef and Rabbi Ovadia, they bring a proof from the Rambam. And where is this Rambam? The Rambam happens to be in right in the beginning of Laws of Shabbat, chapter 1, Halacha Chet, that the Rambam says something very interesting. The lashon of the Rambam is Eino chayiv klum. When you violate Shabbat by mitasek, the third category, you are not liable anything. So the question the Acharonim say is, why not? What does the Rambam say? Absolutely anything, right? So the way the poskim learn is that, and not like Rabbi Kiva Eger, you understand? That nothing wrong was done here. So therefore, Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef in another volume, volume 3.
This is 1 second. This is their interpretation of the Rambam?
Yeah. They're medayik in the Rambam, the Kesef Mishnah, even the Beis Yosef,
Breaks down Kesef Mishnah, of course.
Yeah. So it's clear from the Kesef Mishnah. Yeah. So, anyways, the Yalkut Yosef in volume 3, halacha number 23, he rules that if one leaned on a wall, causing the light to go on, accidentally, he is allowed to benefit from the light in this room if there's no other room that he can read in. Let's say, a lot of times people eat by their in-laws on Shabbat, or they're invited out. So why would he turn on any rooms downstairs, which means, of course, it's better. There's no mitzvah to go against Rabbi Kiva Eger. It was a great posek, but what's the main halacha, the real halacha? The real halacha that's mashma from the Rambam and the way the Kesef Mishnah understands it, that no, this third category of mitasek is absolutely clean. You're totally clean. And that's why, by default, the manifestation of it is that since you're totally clean, so why should anybody punish you? You could have benefit from it, right? And then Rav David Yosef brings a bomb chidush. He says, let's say you live in one of these tight Manhattan or Israeli apartments where, that you literally pay by the inch. Jerusalem's rent and Jerusalem's real estate prices and Tel Aviv's are like sky high. They're more expensive per square foot than many places in LA.
Tel Aviv is one of the most expensive cities in the world.
So is Yerushalayim. I can tell you from personal experience. So let's say you had an empty pot. You pick up the pot, seems totally empty to you, and you have nowhere. You want to cut salad. You want to cut salad for your Shabbat salad. So you for lack of anywhere else to put the pot, you put the pot on your blech. Because you have, some of these kitchens are tight. I don't know. Have you ever been in some of these things? A lot of these units are also illegal, unfortunately. Not built upon code. They're literally like 10 feet by 50. I mean, I don't know how, it's like a single, how they put a kitchen and bathroom and thing in a whole small place.
Like a studio.
Yeah, like a studio. And guess what happened? Let's say, unbeknownst to you, this pot that felt empty and was like, felt empty and you thought was like, just taking up counter space, had raw, juicy soup in it. And you happen to have a terrible cold. Now you put this on the blech, tomorrow morning you start pulling your hair out because you feel so guilty because by accident you cooked on Shabbat, it's not a raw food. Rav David Yosef says it's exactly like the case of like leaning on the wall, and if for whatever reason you need to eat this food, you don't have any other food to eat, or you're sick, no melechet machshevet, going back to the beginning of the shir, happened, and therefore you would be totally allowed to benefit and have the food, because you thought, were you trying to cook here at all? No, you're just trying to free up. It's a big chidush, but if you think about it, it's true. You were just trying to free up counter space. Happened to be there was a tiny amount of food there, and I ended up cooking. So he says, since it's synonymous to the case of the wall, leaning on the wall, and you can have benefit. Hashem should help us to know that somebody that wants to really know on a universally, kola level, laws of Shabbat, it may take you 5 years if you study it a couple hours a day, if you want to know it in the highest ramification. It's not a joke. It's something that, yes, you can learn the basics maybe in a week if you put a few hours a night, but if you want to know the depths of this level that we gave the shir on, it's definitely a lifelong mission because of new technology, and we need to always review. And the more pristine we keep Shabbat, Hashem should keep us healthy, wealthy, and wise, and safe, and bring Mashiach. Amen.